For the fourth straight year, Ohio State loses to Michigan.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to another postcast after a loss to Michigan. Right here at the Locked On Podcast Network, I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And this postcast is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During this postcast, we'll address the fight on the field after the game. We'll discuss what went wrong, discuss the coaching and the playing that really had Ohio State on the losing end of this game once again. But before we get to any of that, it's 4 years in a row of losing to them, to that team in Ann Arbor. 4 years in a row where players came back and said, we want a pair of gold pants. We want this. We want that. We came back to win this game, to win the conference championship, to win the national championship. And once again at Ohio State, players are talking, and it's not being backed up on the field. Now, you may want to say, Jay, they're 10-2. I don't care about the record. I care about the outcome of this game. And the one thing I care about with this game is that you end the game with a W. And unfortunately, Ohio State's teams under Ryan Day have only won one in the 6 years been in Columbus. And this was a year, everybody said, I said, Ohio State had it. I 100% believe that Ohio State was going to win the game. But when it came down to it, offensively, they couldn't get it done. Defensively, the defense, if you hold any team to 13 points, you're supposed to win the game. 13 points, 1 touchdown, two field goals. You're supposed to win those games. But for some reason in this one, Sharon Moore did enough. Wink Martindale had Chip Kelly's number. Jim Knowles, I don't know why there wasn't more pressure on Davis Warren. I have no idea. We know he's not a future NFL quarterback. We know he's not one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country. But all of a sudden, the things that have worked for Ohio State this year, especially later in the year, I don't know. I don't have the answers. The only thing I do know is this. This is not good enough. This shouldn't happen. Not once, not twice. None of it should happen. And for Ohio State, the season's not over, but you got to go back in that locker room. You have to go home, got to go to your apartment or your house and look inside yourself and say, what did I do wrong today? For Ryan Day, for Chip Kelly, for all the coaches, go back and look inside yourself and say, what did I do wrong today? Yeah, we can look at number 18. We'll talk about him later on because definitely, even by the numbers, not a good enough performance for him. 19-33, 175 passing yards, 1 touchdown. For some reason, his worst game was in this game. Worst game of his Buckeye career happened to be when you're supposed to win the game. I understand this is for Buckeye Nation. I understand this and I understand that. I get it. And I know he got popped by Hausman and early in the game. Hey, that was a big boy hit. I mean, people are wondering, was that targeting? Was it not? No. That's what you call as a football hit. That's a clean hit that Will Howard had. Devin Brown comes in. Will Howard goes back in. Do I think Will Howard, under normal circumstances, would have tried to go back in the game? No. But this game's different. He understood it. Caleb Downs understood it. You saw he played today. The defense rose to the occasion and did a lot of good things. Jack Sawyer had a pick. But for some reason, in this game, offensively, with the weapons Ohio State has, they didn't get it done. And everybody's looking at themselves. Everybody's looking at, why did this happen today? I can tell you, offensively, y'all chose this game to try to figure out this, to say this is the time we're going to try to show that we're tough. When everybody and their mama knows that Ohio State offense runs and the best weapons are on the outside. Now, I understand when you build an offense, you build any team, you got to start outside, you start inside, then go outside. And so, yeah, you have to work on the offensive line. You got to work on the running game. But when you know the strength of Michigan's defense, the teeth of it is right there on the interior, please somebody explain to me why these coaches decided today to run Quinshon Judkins, to run Travion Henderson right at the heart of the defense, and they get stopped over and over and over and over again. The next thing you know, they're still trying it. They're even verified the gold badge on Twitter, tweeting out things talking about Ryan Day and Chip Kelly in this game, knowing Michigan's defense is the heart of it. We know it's on the interior. We know the weapons are on the outside. Then all of a sudden, dive. Make it make sense. And you know why I'm so frustrated right now? My wife was even asking me, like, are you okay? No, I'm not okay. Absolutely not. I'm not okay. Most of my life, and probably most of your life as well, Ohio State has, now I didn't live through the Cooper era. I was alive. I wasn't a fan. So maybe that's why this is hitting me so hard. I had Jim Tressel most of the time. Got that 1 year under Luke Fickell. There was the 1 year, the multiple years Urban Meyer didn't lose to this team. Then all of a sudden, Ryan Day comes in. He wins with Urban's guys. And I say it that way on purpose because most of that team that was starting, those were Urban's guys. The Urban recruited. Yeah, they stayed at Ohio State because of Ryan Day, but those are Urban's guys. We have not had a win under Day's guys. And this is not me saying Day doesn't know how to recruit or doesn't get elite guys. This is just saying there's something fundamentally wrong right now with the team in this game. You can beat Penn State. You can beat Indiana. You can go on the road and lose by 1 point to Oregon. Okay. That loss to Oregon doesn't sting like this. That loss to Oregon in 2021 doesn't hit like this because you don't come to Ohio State to win the other games. You come here for this game. You don't look at the Big Ten championship. You don't look at the national championship. But once again, what do we find about Ohio State early in the year? They put pressure on themselves. I know this is after a game and we're all full of emotion right now, but let's think about this really quickly. Before we move on forward with this show, we came into this season and heard Denzel Burke and heard the leaders on this team say, natty or bust. Denzel Burke even came out and said, we got to win every game. Most of the time, the average human being or the average athlete is going to crack under pressure because that pressure they're putting on themselves is unlike anything else they've ever experienced in their life. And right now, what we saw in this game is when it came down to it, your QB1 couldn't get it done. Now, nobody really trusts Will Howard to say he's an elite passer. He's having a phenomenal year this year passing the ball, career year like we expected. But when it comes down to it late in the game, can I trust Will Howard in this moment in this game, or should I trust him to get the ball done, move the ball down the field with his arm? No. Now, you say, Jay, why do you say no? I had a similar feeling in this game on that final drive that I had a year ago when McCord was a quarterback. And why is it? It's because that quarterback, for some reason, is being put in a situation that I don't have the utmost confidence in them to get the job done. A lot of it with Will Howard was the way he played in this game. It wasn't just the interceptions. You got Abuka, a crossing route. If you throw it on time before he breaks, that's a catch. First down, move the chains. All of a sudden, it's thrown behind him. What? The stuff that happened today is inexcusable, and I think Ohio State just simply cracked under pressure. Not the defense did what the defense, even with the defense doing some things that weren't good enough at times, they were on the field a lot today. I mean, way more than you would think against that physical Michigan team where their plan is to run the ball down your throat. That's exactly what happened. I know our emotions are every which way today, but trust me, lose 4 years in a row to that team, where 3 years, there was 2 years of cheating. There was 1 year that you still had the feeling of Stallions was still being felt with the program. Then all of a sudden, Stallions ain't there. This is a different Michigan team. They're now 7-5. Came into the game 6-5. Barely bowl eligible. Then all of a sudden, they come in and run the ball down. They run the ball for 172 yards in this game. 32 carries by Khalil Mullings, 116 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown. I didn't think that was going to happen by Ohio State standards to Ohio State's defense. But when you ask that unit to do as much as they did today, that's the outcome. This postcast is going to roll on. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, but specifically moving forward with this show, it's about what went wrong and diving into the issues that Ohio State has when it comes to the game against Michigan. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime is that spot to get last-minute tickets to any game, event you want to go to that's live. They also have the all-in pricing, which allows you to get a all-in view at your ticket before you buy. They got the panoramic view from your seat, and they also have the Gametime ticket coverage, and all of it is geared to help you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you all for tapping into this live postcast after Ohio State's fourth straight loss to Michigan. Yeah, the score is 13-10. But more importantly than just the outcome of this game, the final score, it's 4 in a row. And we all heard coming into this year, the quarterback situation was one that Ryan Day believed in. The quarterback was one that did a lot of good things. And over the course of the first 11 games that Will Howard played, he did a lot of things correctly. Now, there was some spots here or there where Will Howard's going to have one thing wrong or another thing wrong or another thing wrong. But you're probably going to pencil down Will Howard for 2. Literally, now we use a pen on this one, baby. I got a notepad, I got a pen. I'm going to pencil down 2 mistakes for Will Howard in any game he plays. It's just something that we know to be true. All of a sudden today, it wasn't so much the big boy mistakes where it was interception, or fumble. No, it was passes that were at the ground, passes that were behind receivers on multiple occasions. Even on the final drive, couldn't get outside the pocket, so you're going up into the pocket, but you're realizing if you're going up into the pocket, well, you're limiting your chances to move the ball down the field. Yes, this is Will Howard we're talking about. And Will Howard done a lot of great things at Ohio State. He ain't leaving with a pair of gold pants. Will Howard's performance today wasn't good enough at all. Now, even with him getting hurt, he goes out, he comes back in. Do I think you turn to Devin Brown? No. Somebody got a text during the game, like, who is that quarterback? Devin Brown. And there was some time between that reply back and the initial text because, well, the game's on. But I'm like, Devin Brown. And when I think about this, do you trust Devin Brown to come in here and to win this game? I would have. I know. Julian's saying, do I trust him to come in that moment, or Aaron Nolan or Lincoln Keno's? Absolutely not. Will Howard's a guy, which is why everybody should have been nervous. When he going back in the game and his decision-making seemed to be a little bit off, the throws seemed to be a little off, everybody and their mama should have been nervous because of the way he was playing in this game. Now, after the game a week ago against Indiana, it's all cool, man. And I believed him. I truly believe that he understands the importance of it. But his play did not match the words saying this is everything. The play didn't have that. Offensively, I said it earlier. I didn't dive deep into Chip Kelly, though, in this game. I don't understand why they decided to run the ball over and over and over and over into the heart of the defense, the middle of the defense, which is the strength of Michigan's defense. And all of a sudden, numerous times, stretched to the short side of the field, once to the right, another time to the left. And I'm thinking, is this Ryan Day calling plays or Chip Kelly? Because that's a Ryan Day thing. Now, Ryan Day would do that and it wouldn't kill a drive. It wouldn't set you back on 3rd and long. But all of a sudden in this game, it's like, no, we want to prove we're tough. No, go out there and win the game. You have Ibuka, you have Tate, you have Smith. You even got Brandon Ennis. You have guys out there that can do some great things on the other side of the field, on the side of the line of scrimmage, and gain some positive yardage. Not utilizing those guys in the ways that they should have is a negative mark by Chip Kelly in this game. We say Ryan Day, and this game's everything. We say for the players, you come here to win this game. The same goes for the coordinators. The same goes for Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles. And Jim Knowles, for the most part, did pretty well today. There was coming out of the timeout and having 12 men on the field, which is a very – how? We've been watching football for a long time, and one thing even in Little League, after a timeout, only go on the field if we call your group. For this situation. Not for last week's situation, but for this situation. If we call your group, you go out there. Now, why in the world were there 12 men on the field? I don't know. I don't have an answer. Only answer I got is it shouldn't have happened. Defensively, they Charles did everything they could, man. I'm trying to find a positive, but there is no positive. Because the defense in this moment, Caleb Downs, Lathan Ransom, Cody Simon, once again, 9 tackles. Caleb Downs led the team in tackles at 11. 4 solo tackles. He had that pick, which I'm like, hey, Caleb Downs. And even after that, when the Buckeyes got the ball in the red zone, I said, hey, put him in there. Let him play running back. Let him punch it in to kind of reward him for the moment in the game. Now I don't really think that was a move, but look, Caleb Downs was a thought to be one of the guys in the running back room for Ohio State if they decided to use 3 running backs. They've used 2 running backs. James Peoples mainly plays in mop-up duty. Another running back for you is Will Howard. But still, I think Caleb Downs in a very specialized package could be used in some running back situations because he's that good. He's that kind of player. Now, I'm not saying go and do the Travis Hunter thing where you're playing 100 or 1,400 snaps in a given season in 12 games. I'm not saying that. But for Caleb Downs, he's a dog, man. I mean, Donovan Edwards, even at a time running towards the right sideline, Donovan Edwards got hit by Caleb Downs, and it wasn't an illegal hit. It was a clean hit, but he felt Caleb Downs' presence. Lathan Ransom, there was times that he was right there, and the Michigan players were feeling their presence. The defense today didn't do everything they could have, but they were asked to do a lot against a very physical team in Michigan. The final numbers, though, when I think about what the defense did not do enough of, 3 quarterback hits, 0 sacks. You got a really bad quarterback in Davis Warren, who is not good. Had a couple of decent throws, but he's not a good quarterback. His numbers today were pretty poor. Some may say pedestrian, 9 of 16, 62 yards, 56 completion percentage, and 2 INTs. It's not good. It wasn't good at all. But what did Ohio State decide not to do enough of? Bring pressure. Post-Oregon game, really post-Nebraska. What does Ohio State try to do more of? Pressure. What does a bad quarterback hate? Pressure. Why in the world did they not bring pressure as much as they should have? Bruh, their best option on offense ain't on the field. The only 2 options, the true threats you have to really worry about is the run game and the physicality of the offensive line. So why in the world, an obvious passing situation, did they not try to do the thing that would have been the most helpful in those situations? I ain't got an answer. You might have an answer, but many of us don't. Many of us are sitting here scratching our heads once again as a defense, as I can just kind of describe it as they're very, very tired. And I don't normally try to say a team is say they're tired and that's why things don't go the way that they want them to, but that's a real factor here. Michigan had 172 rushing yards, 4.1 yards a pop. Ohio State had 77 rushing yards, 3 yards a pop. Michigan had the ball for 7 more minutes than Ohio State. To be exact, 7 minutes and 10 seconds more than the Buckeyes. Put yourselves in Tyleik Williams' shoes. Put yourselves in Arvell Reese or Caleb Downs or Lathan Ransom or Denzel Burke, Tuimoloau or Sawyer. Put yourselves in their shoes. And if you're on the field for 7 minutes and 10 seconds longer than the team you're playing for's offense, what do you think's going to happen? Michigan's a good team. They have good players. Yes, they're 7-5. That's really an average team. They played average ball this year. What we saw today is not a team that's a 7-5 team. And I, before the game, was saying they're a quarterback away. They're more than a quarterback away. If you give them an average quarterback, that's an 8 or 9 win team. They're going to win 8 or 9 games. Why am I being positive about that? Because of what I saw today from the Wolverines really shocked me. What I saw today from Ohio State shocked me. The result, the Buckeyes' 4th straight loss to Michigan. At the end of the game, we don't normally do this, but with the ugly scene after the game between Michigan and Ohio State, an all-out brawl, we have to spend the final segment of this show talking about what happened, why it happened, and what might come over the next few days because it happened. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. All the action goes down in two places, on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank y'all for tapping into this live postcast after Ohio State's fourth straight loss to Michigan. Now, after the game was what we witnessed was one of the ugliest scenes we have seen this year. No, I'll go even further. It was the ugliest scene we have seen this year in college football. Throughout Ryan Day's tenure, throughout your life watching football, throughout my life watching football, we don't normally get scenes like this. What happened? Michigan won the game. Michigan tried to plant the flag in the middle of the Blocko in the center of Ohio Stadium. The players from Ohio State came back on the field to defend their turf, which they didn't do during the first 60 minutes of the game. But for some reason, they decided to do it then. I understand why they didn't, but they didn't do it during the first 60 minutes. They did it after the fact. And all of a sudden, it was an all-out brawl. There were players from Ohio State fighting Michigan players from Michigan attacking and going after Ohio State players. And it was ugly, man. After the game, I believe Khalil Mullings, after the brawl, I believe Khalil Mullings was called by Jenny Taft to come do a post-game interview live, because that interview she did initially after the game with the first Michigan player, Mason Graham, was halted because the brawl started. He called the Ohio State classless. Wouldn't expect anything different from a classless program. And as much as I would like to defend him in this moment, I've taken some time to think about this. Sir, your team cheated. You were on the team when they cheated. And so classless organizations try to go around the rules to win. I'm not here trying to say things that they aren't doing it now, but that actually happened. Now, in this moment, if you're going to say that Ohio State Khalil Mullings is the reason why you say this is classless, because this is what they're doing, in any given moment, when teams come into Ohio Stadium, they want to plant the flag. Michigan did it a couple years ago. They wanted to do it here. No, absolutely not. Do I think Ohio State players will go into Michigan Stadium in next year and try to plant the flag if they win? They might try to. They shouldn't. I am not a supporter of that aspect of a game. After the game, if you don't want to shake your opponent's hand, which I good game, win or I understand why you may not want to. Good game, man. Go to the locker room. That nonsense right there shouldn't have happened. And if Ohio State players were in the big house next year, and if they win, they want to go plant the Blocko flag on the M in the middle of the field, don't do it. Absolutely don't do it. Those are not things you do after a game. But what we saw when those things happened, you saw Michigan players. You saw Ohio State players in a brawl aspect. Now, you didn't see, like we saw 20 years ago in the Malice of the Palace between the Pistons and the Pacers. You didn't see fans come onto the court or in the field. You didn't see players go onto the stands. It was player on player, coach on coach, that type of aspects. There was also cops on the field, and it surely seemed like, at least from what we saw from Fox, that there were players from Michigan that got maced. I don't know who was the aggressor, who was not. I forget the Michigan player that was after the fact that carried the flag around, and someone on the broadcast, Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt, I don't know, says somebody better get that flag out of his hands. Next thing we know, Jack Sawyer comes up, doesn't try to attack the player. He literally took the flag off of the pole, threw it down, stepped on it, and walked away. Now, I don't condone the whole flag thing as far as running around. And if Ohio State player did it, I'll be the same way. However, with Jack Sawyer not trying to physically assault somebody, in his aspect of, no, give me the flag, take it off. You're not going to quickly put this flag back on here by yourself. He knows that to be a true thing. Take it off, go your separate way. But the Ohio State players and the Michigan players, all of them, They got into it. The Big Ten is going to review this footage, and I anticipate probably Monday or Tuesday a hand down of suspensions, because there are different camera angles that we don't see on TV live. There's a lot of camera angles that the Big Ten is going to utilize to get the footage of this, and they're eventually going to be coming back and saying, well, Michigan, you got X, let's say this there's 10 players from Michigan. Let's say there's 10 players from Ohio State. Let's keep it even here. I'm not trying to go the whole back. Well, it was 11 of one and 5 of them. I'm not doing that. 10 players from each team that were seen via video and confirmed via jersey number, via facial recognition, whatever it is, that were confirmed from both teams to be in the midst of the fight. And the Big Ten can say, well, you're suspended for a game or 2 games or 4 games. They have the freedom to hand out whatever punishment that they want to hand out because you decided to get into a fight after the game. I know earlier in this segment, I got a little animated, got a little heated because in the 60 minutes of the game, the Buckeyes didn't put up the fight that was needed to win the game because they lost. But now after the fact, you're more aggressive in this nature because I'm trying to plant the flag. And I'm not mad about you trying to defend your home turf. I am not at all. That's what you do. If somebody were to come into my home, me here by myself, or my family here, and they're trying to come in here and plant their mark, say this is their territory, I am going to protect what's mine. That's what you do. And so, no, I'm not mad at them for going back at Michigan for trying to do exactly what for Michigan playing the flag. I'm not mad about that. But the fighting can happen. That can happen. And I truly expect Monday, Tuesday, especially if Ohio State finds a way, and I don't think it's going to happen, especially if Ohio State gets into the Big Ten championship game, the Big Ten is going to be forced to work even faster to figure out who Ohio State won't have in that game. Because think about the unfortunate disadvantage Ohio State might have. Let's just say all the dominoes fall in their way and they get into the Big Ten championship game a week from today, and all of a sudden Sunday rolls around. Well, we ain't heard nothing from the Big Ten, so I am going to assume we got our guys. All of a sudden, we ain't heard nothing on Monday. On Tuesday, all of a sudden, you're without these guys. It also wouldn't shock me if the cops got involved. This became a legal matter. I understand it's on the field of play, and I understand the things that happen on the field are sometimes looked at in a different way. You're fighting. There are cops all around the stadium. Probably heavy security today because it is the game, and people know what normally happens in the game, and the severity and the physicality of it. It wouldn't shock me if the cops got involved in a situation for Michigan players or Ohio State players. The players that got involved, I'm not saying you specifically, but the players that got involved are probably going to get punished by somebody. And your actions, they might have a positive reaction or a negative reaction. Right now, what we saw during the 60 minutes of the game, and after the fact, during that brawl, was that the actions of Ohio State's players. There was a negative reaction because the game was lost. There's also a negative reaction because of the brawl after the fact. As someone that has watched 2 of the ugliest brawls in sports history live, the Malice at the Palace, I was watching that. I was in high school on a Friday night. I flipped from watching a high school football game to the game on ESPN. I knew the Pacers were playing. That was my team. And then all of a sudden, I see Ben Wallace with I think it was Ron Artest with the foul. Ben Wallace with the hand to the under, basically trying to do an uppercut, hand to the face of Ron Artest. I saw the beers flying. I saw Ron Artest, Steven Jackson go into the stands. I saw Fed come on the court a few minutes later and try to pop Jermaine O'Neal. Jermaine O'Neal slipped and popped that player. Saw Jamal Tinsley with the torn jersey. I saw Reggie Miller walk off the court, covering his head with trying to protect himself from the beer and protect Ron Artest from the beer and things that were being thrown at them on that day. I lived that. That was one of my teams. And for some reason today, this happened to another one of my teams. Am I the problem? I don't think so. Things get heated during rivalries. Things don't go the way they want them to go. But what we saw today was one of the ugliest scenes we will ever see in sports. And I hope it doesn't happen again. Not next year, not the year after that. I'm not mad about Jeremiah Smith getting a little mouthy during the game and players being chirpy. I'm not mad about that. But that fight, that brawl, there's no place for that in this rivalry. There's no place for that in sports. Clean that up and get the nonsense out of here. Also, what else needs to get cleaned up? It's just losing streak. Get this nonsense cleaned up. There's no place for this in this rivalry when Ohio State's on the losing end. Thank y'all for tapping into this live postcast after Ohio State's 4th straight loss to Michigan. What can I say? They lost 13-10. Missed 2 field goals. The offense didn't get it done. Defense was on the field for 7+ minutes longer than the offense. 33 minutes and 35 seconds to be exact. I mean, you give up 172 rushing yards in the game. Are you going to win the game? Maybe. It's going to be very hard to. Ohio State saw that today. Thank you all for tapping into this live podcast in the middle of your college football Saturday. Be sure to check out Locked On Big Ten. Make it your second listen on this college football Saturday. My guy, Craig Sheevan, is the guy that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter or on Blue Sky at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeye. Another postcast after another Michigan loss. We'll see you next time.